Oh, welcome back, gamers and gentlemen, to another special Gamer Culture episode. Today, we're going to be talking about all things spoopy in video games. But before we get into that, introductions are in order. My name is, as always, is Kuma, and joining me is my co-host, Kibbles. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, everyone. I am in a very festive mood. It is almost Halloween. It is one of my favorite times of years, and I just love the atmosphere of it. How are you?
What's your favorite part of the atmosphere of it? I've never heard anybody say ever tell me I love the atmosphere of Halloween. I've never heard that before.
I like it. Well, I think it's the atmosphere of fall overall. I like going around seeing pumpkins everywhere. I like everything. Everything's like slowly starting to die down.
You were as literal as possible when you say atmosphere. Then okay, I thought you meant it more like okay.
I love
like a
seeing
metaphorically.
Halloween decorations and no, I like seeing the Halloween decorations and the kids come out all dressed up.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, that makes way more sense now. Cool.
Yeah.
And it's me, Tyler, who talks too much.
Alrighty, and yeah, you got Tyler in the corner as always, and joining us, the network's resident master of horror, Mike. How you doing, my friend?
Sorry, Mike. Good. It's my absolute favorite time of the year. Enjoying all those, horror movie marathons, gaming sessions.
Yeah.
Going back to work. Probably scariest thing of all right now.
Oh my god.
Oh, I got laid off work, so.
Hey, that's spooky.
I'm on a soft thing there, and I came back from vacation. My district HR is like, "Yeah, you still have a cough, so you're not allowed on work premises until that's taken care of."
Oh snap! That's
and
terrible.
Then work starts calling me
laughing?
anyway because they're like, "Oh, are you coming in today?" Well, no, district HR said I can't. They're like, "Well, you're responsible for." I'm like, "Call district and speak with them." And then I got a call later. They're like, "Yeah, you're fine."
That's good. That's good. Oh man.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys for being here. So like I said, we're gonna be talking about spoopy games. So horror games out there. I'm not a huge horror fan. I've made that clear a lot. I don't do well with scares. I don't like being scared. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like scary movies.
Yeah, I think you told me once that Pippi Longstocking was the scariest movie you ever saw.
Pippi Longstocking is a terrifying woman, and I will not brook any argument.
She can lift up a house. That's terrifying.
Be able to walk backwards on their hands like that. That's weird.
Yeah, she can lift up a house and have her hair like that. That's a monster. She's
unnatural. Oddly enough, I still don't really like horror games. Primarily because a lot of horror games like to use gore as a factor, and I'm not a big gore fan. I've seen the Saw movies, and I'll be honest, if you took the gore out of them, I'd probably really like them.
So then you would like 7.
Like the story.
The first Saw movie has almost no gore in it.
Yeah.
No, the first 3 are actually really good.
It's like number 4.
The second one, oh my god, I love Saw 2 because it is so terrible. It really was like them going from like Fast and Furious 1, like if Fast and Furious went from Fast and Furious 1 to Fast and Furious 7, like that is essentially the leap that Saw went to with Saw 2, where like the woman's being pushed into the pit full of syringes and stuff. And like my favorite death ever was the guy with the keyhole. He's just like looking in. He's like, "Oh, what is that? What is that?" And it's clearly a gun, and it shoots him, and he just dies instantly. I don't know why, but it's my favorite death in like all the Saw franchise.
No, Saw 1, 2, and 3, like it told a good story. Saw 3 got a little intense, but like there was still.
Oh no, the lag.
Nope, we're losing him.
But Saw 3 was the one with the cop, right?
I can still watch this. I'm okay.
Saw 3 was,
and then 4, 5, and 6 to people dying in terrible ways.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, new one.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be another one with
Chris
Rock.
Do they have more? I thought they only went to 6.
Chris
it's
Rock
called
and Cam Jackson.
I think it's
called Spyro.
Yeah, it's called Spiral. Yeah,
Spiral. It's Spiral, the Book of Saw.
It's the Book of Saw.
I think it's gonna be like a legacy thing, which I'm actually okay with.
I actually am looking forward to it. I think it feels more going back to the roots of the series because, like you said, Saw became something it really wasn't. You watch the first one and you can just tell it's like they weren't planning on doing all this.
No, it was literally like
this. And there were so many retcons and like unnecessary twists in that series. Like they're a guilty pleasure. I genuinely get a kick out of most of them. But like the series really could have ended after the first one and been just fine.
Yeah.
The third one,
It-
maybe,
I mean,
I could have gone to. But
I
it
liked
didn't really
learning a
need to
little bit
go on.
more about Jigsaw and me, but yeah. But anyways, this is GamerKulture. This is like a completely different
Oh,
podcast.
there's our Spyro.
Yeah, we just spiraled into that. Go see Spiral, the Book of Saw, coming to theater soon, maybe. Sponsor? No.
So I mentioned all of that because horror games to me are really hit or miss whether or not I'm going to play them, but I usually like horror games more because you actually have a sense of agency over what's going on. And to me that makes it a bit better.
Your face was stuck and you looked like Jack Nicholson and it was amazing. I just wanted to let you know.
That was pretty good.
You're like, yes. No. Anyway.
What happened?
Nothing. I will say, like, I agree with you. That I think a lot of horror games do focus way too much on gore as opposed to just good storytelling and use of fear. Where I would say that, like, some of the ones that I want to bring to the party are Silent Hill and Outlast, and I would say are pretty much the pioneers right now and also Amnesia. I think Amnesia gets kind of lost a little too much into the into some poor quality puzzles, especially with the sequels, because I played, or the sequel, I would say, and the add-on. I am looking forward to the third one, like, absolutely. But I would say the second one definitely was like a massive dip.
In defense of Amnesia and Frictional Games, A Machine for Pigs, which was the second Amnesia game, that was the Chinese room. That had nothing to do with them. That was the people that made Dear Esther, which is why it kind of sucked.
I actually did not even know that. Huh. I was like,
Frictional had nothing to do with A Machine for Pigs. That was all on the Chinese room.
I would have said like Evil Within, but I mean it is a very gruesome game. But yeah, the second one though, like I didn't play the second Evil Within, but I heard.
I heard the second Evil Within was good. I really liked the first one. I never got around to the second though.
So Sean, I guess with the gore aspect of it, what is it with gore and you that don't really agree with when it comes to games? Because I understand movies a lot more so, but like with games, gore goes on a completely different realm, I feel like, and there's so much variety. So
I mean, so let's see if I can get through a thought without my connection dropping. I've never been a fan of like unnecessary death in anything. As a kid, like I always had a hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the movie, but I always had a hard time watching Jurassic Park because there are a lot of deaths in that movie where I'm just like, that person didn't need to die. Like, why is that person getting killed? And like, really, in any movie, like, and anytime that there's like a death where it's like that was unnecessary, that's just there for shock value. I've never. It's always like kind of messed with my head a little bit. Especially just like sometimes it's just gross. Like it's just gross. Like in Saw, like I said, I like Saw 3. The scene with the dude on the cross that's like slowly twists his limbs. I'm like, great idea, gross, fucking gross.
Yeah. I agree.
Which is funny because I love God of War. I loved the kills in God of War. God of War 3, whenever you kill a centaur by like disemboweling it, fucking awesome. But for some reason, maybe it's because in that game, like you are essentially the force that's doing all this, whereas in a horror game you're fleeing from it and trying to not have that happen to you. That's probably the harder part, is whether or not you have the agency over it or not.
Okay.
I agree with him on that part. Because there's games I don't like Outlast is one of them. I played through it actually once with a friend. It's a good game. It's an enjoyable game, but like Sean says, there are aspects where it's like you don't really need that kind of gore into it. Like there's a scene in there where you are, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played the game. But it's you're strapped down in like a wheelchair, held by a crazy doctor, and then it shows you the crazy doctor cutting your character's fingers, like one or two of his fingers off. I'm like, oh, I don't.
Oh yeah, that's.
You kind of don't need that. Yeah.
that's the weird thing with Outlast, because I feel like Outlast is more.
I mean, I get that's in there for shock value and like,
Yeah.
oh god, but still,
it's
Yeah.
it's the thriller aspect of it where I think that's where it works with Outlast. Like I would yes, there's a lot of like gore and gruesomeness in it, but I don't think like I would say the new Resident Evil games are the ones that are extremely gory, where you're seeing like completely messed up, disfigured humans who are clearly like in a shit ton of pain and are mangled, and there's a lot of things exploding at you. Like big growths that will have a human face on it and stuff like that. Like that stuff to me that's the gruesome where I'm not very okay with. Where Outlast, maybe it's because I love the psychological horror and thrillerness of it. It works for me so well because these are I'm experiencing something in Outlast that actually could happen, and it's really really terrifying within reason because there's kind of superhuman strength in a lot of it. But if you get my kind of gist, though, it's weird and terrifying and satisfying at the same time.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like, again, it's a good game. I enjoy the game. It's just not something I will play on my own. Again, I had to play with the friend with me, but I'm not going to go out and look for a game like that. Really.
Okay.
But I do respect it. And I do agree. Like, that's what they're going for. That's fine, and it's an enjoyable game. It's just probably not going to be one I'm going to go look out for.
Makes sense. Yeah. What about you, Mike? What do you think?
Outlast, I played through it once years back. I have it on the PS4, and I really liked it. I never been really squeamish myself. I feel growing up, internet in the 90s, I've been very desensitized. I grew up watching horror movies and all that. Like, I mean, God, I go to Knott's Scary Farm every year, except for this year.
There you go.
And I mean, you're literally walking through, scenes that would put anything you'd see in like Outlast or Resident Evil to shame. Like, there's some gruesome stuff, and
you're seeing something. You're seeing something be like really horrible happening in the game, and you're just like, oh, this is. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to be scared right now. Like,
I get something very different out of a lot of horror games. It takes. I think the last horror game that really had me feeling a little unsettled was probably PT.
Oh God,
yeah,
PT was perfect. I'm so upset with Silent Hills. God.
Yeah.
I really like, between it being Kojima and Del Toro and Junji Ito working on that would have been
a masterpiece.
Such a perfect game, and Konami gonna Konami.
It would have been such a love letter. I feel like just to horror in general, where like I feel like that's what Resident Evil has kind of gotten to, and because even though I won't play them, I've watched a lot of playthroughs of it, and it's fascinating, and I love it. But
I loved Resident Evil 7. Like,
Resident Evil lost its way for so long, and then 7 came out, and you're like, when did you guys learn?
Like, even I know 4 is really popular. I don't think 4 is a bad game, but it was definitely
an action game.
It was a push in the wrong direction for the series, and they really carried that over with 5 with the forced co-op, and then I mean, what the heck was Resident Evil 6?
Wasn't Resident Evil 4 like the one that ended with like a guy that looked like a gigantic Napoleon or something like that?
Yeah.
It was like so.
He was
weird.
like Spanish Napoleon.
I was just like, all right, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Oh, weird. I remember playing that on Wii, and I hated using the Wiimote and everything, and I'm just like, oh God, I need to make controller.
Yeah, 7 was a big step back in the right direction for the series, and then what we've seen of 8 so far has me really, really excited.
Oh God, yeah.
8 looks very good. I kind of like games that are a little bit subtle in horror, if you kind of understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I think you're talking about like Silent Hill, where everything happens in a room. A lot of it is like I would say I think my favorite scare of any game. And I think, Sean, you and I have talked about this before. It was from one of the worst installments of Silent Hill. It was called Downpour. And there's a part of it where you walk into a house. And in the bottom, you walk into the house, and on the right, there was a staircase that goes up. And on the left, like it looks like, you're in the atrium, of course, when you walk in. And then it looks like there's a living room. But the living room has like this cage like it's like caged off though, and it has a door, and you go up to the door and it's locking. But you hear a woman crying, and you're just like, all right, that's gonna be something soon. And then you go upstairs, you hear a crash, and you go downstairs, and then the door is open, and then but you don't hear anything, and then you get a little closer to it, and then you hear a child laugh, and so you don't have a flashlight at this point. This is early on in the game, and then anyway, so you can't really go in. Or I can't remember if it was like an automatic die or anything like that. But anyway, so you go back with the flashlight, and you just shine it in there, and this chair just smashes against the wall, and then a ball bounces towards you, and then you see a shadow, and then that's it, and then you get the next clue. But you have to go back to this house later on.
Nothing scarier than children, man.
It's so cool, but like that, like that. There's no monster. There's no nothing. It's just that, and it's so great, and it's so effective.
I'll say, as someone who's never played the games, like, I always found the concept of Silent Hill fascinating, just because the idea of like, oh, the monsters are manifestations of imperfections in their psyche. Like, I no need to explain it, but just the idea of the monster called the, oh god, what was it, the
Pyramid Head?
Abstract Daddy, Abstract Father.
Okay.
Which was a manifestation of abuse, and it looks like two writhing figures on a bed that's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all the monsters that, like, how they're like, oh, this monster represents this, and this is how we chose to design and manifest it. I'm like, that is fucking brilliant. I'm going nowhere near it, but that's really cool.
Oh yeah, Silent Hill's a brilliant series. Like, there's so much depth to it, and just the way they play on those themes of guilt or sin or all those
suppressed feelings.
Things.
I feel you actually learn a lot
so
more
well
about yourself too, your psyche, when you play those games. It hits you in certain aspects of it, and they do use with the good ones. The main characters are very relatable and have very human feelings. So then when they see things or experience stuff, or things are more and more explained, it really kind of triggers you, because again, there already are mostly relatable characters. And so when you see, especially Silent Hill 2, which is why the ending is such a mindfuck for people, is because you really, one thing, care about the characters and care about what's happening, and the twist I'm not going to say, because you should absolutely play this game. I don't care if you emulate it or whatever. It's play Silent Hill 2. It has a whole thing of where you get invested and you see yourself so much into several characters, and then when answers are answered or a twist happens, it really hits you personally, and I love that.
The thing that usually gets me through a horror game is when the horror is more of a sense of dread or urgency than it is of, gross gore or a particular, just a bunch of jump scares or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mike, you brought up that you just started playing Little Nightmares, which is a game I streamed years ago, and I've replayed several times. I love Little Nightmares. Some people might argue it's not much of a horror game, but to me, it's almost my perfect horror game, because at no point are there, I mean, maybe there's like a spook here and there, but there's never a sense of like, quick jump scare. It's always like, oh, that's terrifying, and I don't want it to see me, so how do I get around? And then, I'm Mike, I don't know how far you are in the game, but there's eventually
I'm in the kitchen.
Okay, so you are in the kitchens. So once you get to the kitchens and you're seeing what the cooks are doing in the background, and you're like, I'm perfectly safe. They don't see me. I'm up on a ledge just trying to get around, but I still have to watch them cutting up chunks of meat with their weird face masks, or just the terrifying shit that's going on in the background.
Yeah.
And it's environmental storytelling. You're just like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah. Oh, the atmosphere and the mood of that game is so just palpable. Like, it is fantastic. Like you say, it never feels outwardly scary. Like, it's not trying to scare you, but it's definitely trying to leave you unsettled and just kind of just have that feeling of like just there's something wrong going on. You don't want to be involved in it. You just want to get out. It lingers, and it's really well done. Like the very minimal use of music. It's mostly ambient sounds.
Yeah.
Just like the little noises that the chefs or like the janitor guy that they make when they do happen to spot you. It's just it all plays really well together.
Yeah, there's one game I play around this time. It's like it's like a Japanese game, but it falls on the just like I don't say it's really not that scary, but it's interesting. It's called Deathmark. Has anyone heard of it?
I thought you were going to say Fatal Frame.
Got that on my Switch. I haven't played super far into it, but I am really enjoying what I have played of it.
Yeah, because it's like I also like it because it's basically you're like a man who like wakes up one day and he has like a mysterious mark on like his arm, and that basically is like a curse symbol of you will die to a ghost or something like that. And it takes you through a bunch of like these little stories where you meet other people with these marks, and they're like the old Japanese stories. Like there's one where it's like they start off with rumors. Like, have you heard the rumor of the lady that grants wishes? And like, if you go to this booth at like midnight or something, and you stood there, you'll hear the phone ring, and then she'll ask you, "What do you like?" It's like those kind of stories, but then it dives into the background of like what is actually causing this, and like it'll turn out like, oh, the lady in white is like the spirit of like a lady that was about to get married, but then she got kidnapped by like a bunch of biker gangs, and they killed her, and now her spirit like haunts everything looking for her love or stuff like that.
Oh wow.
But like it's an interesting game. It's like a bunch of like little mini stories that like yeah.
There's
I don't know. It's like
you go ahead.
I was about to say like it's not full of like jump scares, but I like the atmosphere the game like that creates within like the mood of everything. Like you're like like it's not going to I'm gonna say you're not in any real danger, but you always feel like is there something like watching me as you play the game or something like that.
Yeah, it's mostly presented as like almost like a visual novel, and it does a lot with that format. Like for the format it's using, it actually manages to do quite a bit as far as the like I said, like the atmosphere or like the scares it does use. I know like I haven't gone super. I'm towards the beginning of that, like in the school. Like I think that's like the first ghost story you're investigating, and there were a couple moments where like just you'll see something like out of the corner, like in like out a window or something that it's just there for an instant and it's gone. Like just little things like that. They really do they're quite effective.
Yeah, and then you feel sorry because a lot of the ghosts are like victims to like other people's stuff. So like at the same time you also feel like sorry for them. Like, oh, like there's like an innocent person and now they're stuck like this. It's very sad.
There are a lot of other games that make you feel stuck and a little bit not disoriented. Actually, yeah, disoriented. I think that's actually a fantastic word for it. Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. I couldn't remember the colon, but
yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's
that
a good
is
one.
such a game. That is a game that definitely is a very cinematic experience. I remember playing it on the GameCube, and I still have it on my game. And I actually, man, we should actually, yeah, we need to do that for our Let's Plays for next year.
Yeah.
But
That one's
play through Eternal. It is a great game.
That was a very good one because they do stuff in there that you may think that's like actually happening. Like you think it actually like what's the point? Like it's like one thing where like you think your game has crashed and you hit the power button.
Not only that, but like the volume thing will pop up on your screen. Like even though everybody had a different TV at the time, but
some of the effects definitely worked better if you were playing on a CRT back in the day.
Yeah, if you're playing on old TV, it will work. I don't think it will be that effective if you're playing on like a computer or something nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
it was super Lovecraftian too. Like it played into the Elder Gods and they're tying into human history,
Destiny, like like all the old stuff that that would be terrifying. And another one is like one of the original horror games is Clock Tower, which
Clock Tower, yeah,
so good.
Yeah,
the Scissorman.
The Scissorman. I really want them to remake it. I think that'd be a fascinating thing to actually to play because there was another.
That'd be a weird one because that's an old school point and click. And if they were going to remake it, they'd either have to make the choice: do we make it a point and click, or do we make it more of a 3D adventure? And you piss people off either way.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I
The
wouldn't.
newer Clock Tower games were pretty good too.
Yeah,
I thought there was a newer one, but I think I'm imagining it now that I'm thinking about it.
I want to say there's been 3 of them. I know there was one where there was just like
I think there's 3.
one monster that like uses acid or something like that. That's really.
I mean,
You're going on a fucking trip, little man.
it's actually really cool because right
Hey,
now,
wrong acid.
right now I'm playing through Dragon Quest XI, which is really cool because you can either play it with modern graphics or you can play it as 8-bit, which I think is very fascinating and cool. I will never play it 8-bit because what's the point? But
Yeah.
I think maybe a Clock Tower remake where they can do it as a point and click, and maybe another one where it's not, could be cool and interesting. And especially have it be $39. It has name recognition because of certain YouTubers who have talked about it, but also it's always been. There's another game that came out for the Switch. It was a horror game from the 90s as well. I think it was a computer game. It was like a very taboo game, and they came out with a special edition on the Switch. And I was looking. What?
Night Trap.
Yes. That
Night
game.
Trap,
That game is going for $120 now on Amazon, and it's not even 2 years old. Like the remake Celebration Edition. These things do make money, and they're because they sold out, and they sold out, and they didn't make more. And so
limited run made a certain amount of games. They did pre-orders and that's their thing. They'll make certain amount of copies, and then once the pre-order's over, that's all there is.
So like,
and then those usually go for pretty expensive.
Yeah, old games are big again. Look at Nintendo and all the stuff that's happening, Mario 35 and whatnot. Like, I think if they were to do Clock Tower like that, have it be $30 on the Switch or have it be $30, on Steam, I think it would kill. It would make a killing. Yeah, why not? I don't understand why not. And maybe update it, maybe not. It doesn't matter. It's still a fun experience. Do what?
Still like a collection or something. All 3 games.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think that's a great game for a horror. It kind of gets you spooky, especially like there's a lot of things in it, especially when they have like the quote unquote cutscenes of her face and stuff like that, and you actually get to see in 16-bit like her actual like distress and her being terrified is really effective still today. But also we live off of nostalgia where we have things like Shovel Knight and Minecraft that are boxy and weird and effective and so I feel like bringing in some of these old stuff, even like Fatal Frame, would be really cool.
I was about to say bring Fatal Frame back to America. It's been a long time.
Yeah, that game got.
Would be so happy.
Wait, what did you say, Sean?
I said my girlfriend would be so happy. She loved the Fatal Frame games.
Yeah,
there is a Switch Fatal Frame game, but I don't think it's gotten in the US.
Oh,
I don't think
sucks.
So. I think it's because there's one game that the US really didn't like. It was I think it was only the Japanese version where the main character, they put him in lingerie, and like Nintendo, like US was like, no, you can't have that.
Well, I mean, they always censor games. I mean, that happens all the time. Hell, that happens in Final Fantasy. I mean, they'll censor stuff because we're prudes. But I've never played this game before. I had an ex-girlfriend who absolutely loved it and wanted me to play it. I never actually did play it. I heard that Alan Wake is essentially like the American, I guess, not what's the word I'm trying to think of, but it's basically our Fatal Frame. You wouldn't either not comparable.
I've played Alan Wake, and I've watched gameplay of Fatal Frame. Maybe elements of it, but
I get.
I've only played Fatal Frame 2. Yeah, like
Fatal Frame is definitely scarier in a sense of like you're in a lot of enclosed areas, whereas Alan Wake, much of the game happens outside or in wide open areas.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the gameplay I saw of Fatal Frame, I think that's what freaks me out is you're really close. Like you can't. It's like the old Resident Evil games where like you're in like a hallway, a very narrow one, and there's something right in front of you, and there's like nowhere to run but to go back.
Okay. There's and it's funny too.
Let me ask you guys this.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you something. What do you think was the impetus for a lot of the return to form for horror games? Because for a long time it seemed that horror games are going down the path of instead of making this a unsurvivable situation, let's give the main character a gun.
Oh, I was actually just about to bring this up
we saw that
too.
with Dead Space.
That's
We saw that with Resident Evil
and Fear.
I
Yeah,
love
we
that.
saw
I love
that
Space, for the
with
record.
I was just about.
you could argue
say that.
BioShock like was kind of like an FPS with horror elements.
It had very
But
heavy
there were-
horror elements. It was
Yeah.
not
There
a comfortable game.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was just about to ask this.
So there was a long time where a lot of horror games were definitely moving down the path of FPS with monsters.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
something happened where they suddenly realized, you know what? People actually like not being in full control of the situation anymore. Do you guys, what is your preference? Do you like not having full control? Or do you like it when you're like, yeah, the monster might fuck me up if it gets close, but I can fuck it up if it stays far away. Just make ammo limited, right? That's how you make games spoopy.
In all honesty, if you see the monster a lot, I feel like if it's I feel like having some ability to defend yourself to run away if it is a visible physical creature, not if it's something that's abstract or something that you don't really see very often. Like I would say even with Alien, the xenomorph is not seen very often. You only see it whenever it's close to you and then it's gone. You have no idea where it
Unless
is.
you're playing
It's more
Alien Isolation.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Alien Isolation thing is what I meant. Sorry. But like you see it, it'll be there and then it's just gone. Same thing with Amnesia. I think if it's something along the lines of like Resident Evil, where you're able to kind of, I mean, that whole series, I would say that Resident Evil is more of, I would say like if you're lumping the entirety of the franchise together, it is more of an action adventure horror game. So having that, especially with 4, 5, 6, or kind of 6, and the original as well, it's gunfight. That is what that franchise is. I do prefer the psychological one of where you're hiding, but if it's a physical thing that's happening, I think you should be able to punch it and run away, but you have to do certain things, like if it's a cutscene of where it's where you press buttons and stuff like that. What are those called? Those are called
Quick time events.
Yeah.
Yes.
QTEs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
time.
Yes. I think those are usually fine, but if it's a scary game where it's like Silent Hill, where it does have physical stuff, but also paranormal stuff as well, where you're hiding from, Fatal Frame is paranormal. Hiding. I like survival, I would say, is mostly.
Yeah.
I think Five Nights at Freddy's as well. It's cool and a great thing where you just are stuck and it's all about conservation.
So I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna fillet frictional games for a little bit here because this is gonna play both into both of your questions, Sean. So I'm gonna actually go before Amnesia because I'm one of those guys, and I'm gonna talk about Penumbra, which was not Frictional's very, very first game, but it was their first really, mainstream, their mass market game.
Spiritual successor, right?
Amnesia was a success because of that, yeah. So Penumbra was released in 3 parts. There was Overture, Black Plague, and then Requiem. Overture was, takes place in the Arctic. Most of the enemies you encounter are these dogs running around in the mines and stuff, and you are able to fight back. I mean, it was a scary game, but you could jump on top of a barrel or something and just smack them until they're dead, and it just kind of eliminated a lot of that element. Whereas Black Plague, the enemies are these like supernatural, like zombie sort of things, and you can't fight back against them. It's much like, it's like Amnesia. You can't fight against the grunts in that, the enemies in that. So it was a very. I actually talked with Jens from Frictional Games. I did an interview with him years and years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I talked about that kind of the difference going from the original design with Penumbra, where you could fight back to in Black Plague and Amnesia, where you can't, and they said it's scary if you can't fight back. If you're left vulnerable, if you're helpless, you have to run or hide, and find a way to get around it rather than just killing it.
Yeah.
And then you see that again carry over with like Amnesia, where that's all about running and hiding. But you also have to be careful when you run and hide, because there's the whole sanity system. You have to stay in the light.
Yeah.
If your sanity gets low, it gets in. Then we have Soma, which has very few monster encounters. They're much more meaningful when they do happen. And the
Very
horror in Soma is entirely psychological. It's entirely about the kind of questions it asks you as a player to consider, the sort of concepts it talks about as far as the self and what it means to exist. Like the whole idea that the you that you are right now, your body replaces its cells however many times over the years. It's like the you sitting here right now isn't the same you that was sitting here a year ago or when you were a kid. Like does that mean you're not really you anymore? And then it gets into the whole idea of the consciousness and passing that on. I could go on and on about Soma.
The ending of
yeah.
that game was so heavy, because I watched
It is my all-time favorite ending in any horror movie, game, book, anything. The ending for Soma was so perfect. It was so bleak. It was a twist that wasn't even really a twist. Like if you paid attention, you knew exactly how it was going to end, because they tell you what's going to happen, and it still floored me when it did. I'm like,
well,
oh
the first time
God.
the first time you switch, I'll say that for anyone who hasn't played.
Yeah.
First time you switch, you get this idea of like, because you have your little companion being like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you're paying attention, you understand what's happening. And
Mhm.
then you switch a couple times throughout the game. And as you get closer and closer to the end of the game, you're kind of with your character and like, oh no, it'll be fine. By the time we get to the end, like we'll
Mhm.
make it onto the arc thing. And then you get to the end and the ending happens and you're like, you saw this coming. You knew how this was going to end.
Yeah, it's like you just got used to winning the coin flip, and then the one time where it quote unquote matters, you could see what happens when you don't win the coin flip, as it were.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant. Like that's to me like the peak of what horror is. Like it's just so bleak and hopeless, and it's phenomenal. And I mean, there's a little bit beyond that to the ending. There is quote unquote a happy ending to it that you do get to see, which is kind of a nice way to wrap things up. But even then, that ending, when it pulls back and you just know that, okay, so you accomplish your goal, but humanity is still basically just sitting on a computer somewhere floating out in space until he eventually does just run out of power, and what's left of us is just gone. Like, I could go on and on about Soma. That is my top horror game of all time. It's so much more. It bothers me that Amnesia. I loved Amnesia, but Amnesia really was kind of. This goes to your first question. I think Amnesia is a big part of what brought horror back to what it's kind of becoming today.
I'll agree
Because
1,000%
it got
with that.
so popular with like streamer culture, as far as the whole Markiplier or like people like that just overreacting, screaming at everything on their stream. That got really popular with kids. It made it a very successful game, and it really kind of brought that about, which kind of hurt Soma in the long run. And I have an article that goes over this a bit, but Soma being such an introspective type of game where the horror is more how it makes you think and the things it's asking you and what you take out of the game and those questions. That's where the horror really comes from, and that just doesn't translate well to a good stream. Like it's a scary enough game, you can kind of get away with it, but it's not like Amnesia where you get all these opportunities to just scream your head off and get a million likes for it.
Well, and I love that you brought up like the streamer culture, like what that did for games, because I'm also going to throw Five Nights at Freddy's on the pile.
Yeah,
that's a big one too. Yeah,
that did the same thing. I think that did the same thing that Amnesia did, showing that people like when you basically don't have any power. I mean, the most you can do in most Five Nights at Freddy's game is stop the monster from getting to you or lock them down.
But well, it's like I said, it's also about conserving. It's also about conservation as well.
Like, conservation, and then the whole fact is throughout the night you're losing power, which I think is a very good metaphor for the whole thing. Is it's the loss of power over time to the
Yeah.
monsters. And
Absolutely.
yeah, no, I love Fast Freddy series. Like it's had its missteps, and I don't like the direction the series is now. I mentioned this the last podcast we did, but I do think overall it is a good horror series. It's a great introductory horror series, especially for kids.
Yeah.
And you know,
I would say,
it was a big factor in where things have gone since then.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm about to say, I have my own views with Sean's earlier question on whether you feel powerful or not. I have to agree with Tyler on this, where I'm perfectly fine where if you're playing a game, you have a gun, but then there's sometimes you don't and you have to go hide. For me, I think one days is like the game called Cthulhu, where it's
Hmm.
you have a gun in the game and you use it on regular beings, but there is a point where you meet a monster that you see, I think, like twice, maybe 3 times in the game. But it's essentially is a Lovecraftian monster that lives in like an alternate painting world, and you try to shoot it the first time, and you realize, oh, my guns have no effect on this monster, and then your only option is to run around and hide
Yeah.
and try to figure out how am I going to stop this creature from killing me in the end. It's stuff like that where like you're so comfortable with like a weapon, and then suddenly they just take it from you, like in battle like that is what I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would say that giving you something to give you that comfort and then taking away. I was just thinking about
Yeah.
that too. It's
Yeah.
a great
Even if it's only for like a
great
little
way to
bit,
tell the horror.
yeah, even if it's just for a little bit, it does such a good job with everything. Like we're gonna take this away from you for like 5 minutes. You're on your own. You have to find your way out.
Yeah, horror whenever it does something different and kind of takes you out of the element and then makes you kind of think. Like I would say Eternal Darkness is the same thing. Is like that's what really affects me the most. That's why Silent Hill always does those different rooms and different things and different scares and stuff like that. And Resident Evil 7 also did the same thing as well. I would also like
Yeah.
to mention like the Blair Witch game looked I didn't play it, but it looked fascinating when I saw playthroughs. There's other games out there too. Indie games like Witch Hunt, and I would even say the Bigfoot one that I'm very
The
very
Bigfoot one,
intrigued
yeah.
by. But I would say there's another indie. I think it's indie. There's another game where I would say it's kind of like that movie Midsummer, where it's the first horror movie that's in like all brightness, like where it's the
Midsommar
opposite.
is such a good movie. I
Yeah.
love Midsommar.
But it's
Yeah.
I want to compare it to like what Midsummer does for horror was what anyways, the game is We Happy Few, or is it We Happy Few or We Happy?
Be happy few.
Yeah, that game is like the most, to me, terrifying, because not only is it like this dystopia of where everything is, it's like 1984 the game kind of, but with like other horror elements of it, societal horror, but yeah, I think We Happy Few is one of those games where it's completely different and you feel powerless because you are powerless, like everything's taken away from you. And so
Which
that
one's We Happy Few? I'm not familiar.
it's the
That's
one.
the one where it's like in Britain where everyone has to be happy, so they take happy pills.
Oh, that one. Okay, I know
Yeah.
which one you're talking about. I'm thinking of a different game. I'm thinking of a
Terrifying.
Taiwanese kind of game where it's like you're back in like I want to say 1980s, maybe somewhere around there, where it's like communist Taiwan or something like
Are you
that.
talking about Devotion? Because I was actually going to talk about that later.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'll let you
No,
talk
you're
about that.
totally no. I was going to, because it was going to be my question at the end of the podcast actually, but never mind. Anyway,
Oh,
Sean, what about you? You didn't answer your own question.
About what, like which I prefer?
Well, yeah, or just I mean, just you got to answer your own question.
I mean, yeah, I'm waiting for my connection to not be solid red and for everyone else to be jumping around. So, I mean, for me, like what makes a better horror game to watch, because like I said, I don't play many. If I'm playing something, I would prefer a way to not necessarily just blow my way through all the monsters, but a way to like at least somewhat defend myself.
Mm.
Like I think I'd be willing to play the remakes of what is it, RE2 and RE3 that have come out. Because I think a lot of those, as much horror as there is of all the monsters and zombies being around, I do kind of enjoy that tension of conservation of resources. I definitely think the best thing for horror is usually no way to defend yourself, because that's usually the best way
Okay.
to truly achieve that feeling of, I need to protect myself. Survival horror games are probably, I think, the best mix. The ability that you do have the ability to defend yourself, but you have to conserve. It's usually better to run than it is to fight.
Yeah.
I would God, and then games that just take it to the next level of saying, you know what, we are going to ambiance the fuck out of you, and that's where the horror is going to come from. Like that game Anguish, I think it is, or Agony.
Is that the
Actually,
one that they
one
want?
that's set in hell?
Yeah, that's the one that's in hell.
That was the one that was originally AO, but then they had to bring it down to M or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Holy
they
shit.
censored it, and then they released a patch for the PC version that uncensored it.
Yeah. And that I thought was brilliant. I really liked that aesthetic and that choice to say that we're gonna put you in hell, which is a terrible place, but we are just gonna make it this varied wasteland of the worst landscapes you could possibly imagine. Just walls and floors made of bleeding bone and flesh, monsters. So it's like, I think there's one cutscene with a succubus, and like you're like, oh, succubi, like they're sex demons, they're not that bad, right? And like she's literally just like fucking a corpse to just like tearing it to pieces.
Jesus
To be fair, they were
Christ.
very, very sexy demons.
Look, A plus on the design, but a little rough for me. I'm not, roll it back, couple safe words maybe. She took it a little far. But no, just that ambiance, like when your world is telling the story, that's what gets me. That's why, like, I've always been fascinated with Dark Souls, even though I'm not any good at them, because it's the world that tells the story, and I love that. I love that I have to pay attention to the game and not just zone out as people give me a word dump.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think that's kind of what I like about the Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, other than the jump scare horror aspect, is you dive into that world if you're really paying attention. There is like a horror story going on in the underground of it, on top of the horror jump scares you get straight up in front of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the Five Nights at Freddy's, honestly, they jump scares in general do get a bad rap, and I know, being quote unquote the horror guy, I think my opinion with jump scares, I've been asked about it before. Jump scares aren't inherently bad.
Yeah.
They just have to be earned, and I honestly do think that the Five Nights at Freddy's games, they do earn their jump scares. Like, there's a lot of tension throughout the nights, and they build up to it. It's not just cheap, like in your face. Like it's deserved. They do the jump scares probably better than most games do, I think.
I
Have you guys ever seen
agree.
people play the VR versions?
No, God, no.
Yeah.
Seen a couple
Jesus.
playthroughs of them.
I'm good.
There's one of the funniest things I ever saw was when you're playing the VR version of the first game, if you get up and you try to walk out of the room, it automatically spawns Foxy to just sprint down the hall into your face. So if you're like, fuck this,
shit.
I'm out, I'm just gonna leave, and you get up and walk out, he just like runs at you immediately. I'm like, brilliant, fucking brilliant.
You gotta love when they think of everything.
I think that's another aspect of horror I like, is I like the mystery in horror, if you know what I mean. It's like it's like you're kind of just thrown into a place, and then I like figuring out, okay, what the hell is going on here? What had caused this? Like again, like the only thing I could think of is like Call of Duty. Like, yeah, I got sent to this town to look for a lady, but everyone's funny. What's causing this? And if you know Lovecraft, you know what usually causes everything like that. But that's what I like. It's like
that's
like
weird shit.
Yeah, it's like, but that's what I like. It's like you start off in this weird place, and then you're trying to figure out what events led to this happening to this place. That's what I like about horror, for me at least.
Yeah, good mystery, like a good thriller, like mystery. I was talking to my girlfriend about some horror stuff, and how for me, like with horror movies, like we were talking about Saw, but if you stripped away a lot of the really over the top gore, like once you start getting into parts of 2 and definitely parts of 3 and then everything after 3, if you stripped all that away, you actually have a really good like thriller, like mystery thriller.
Yeah.
about this guy who's been slighted and how the world just fucked him, and everything he's doing now is he's he's a killer, yes, but he's more of a punisher than he is a destroyer.
That's a
Um,
good way to put it.
and that I think is a fascinating type of villain. It almost
Yeah,
reminds me of
Jacob's a
number
great
7.
character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea of like when there's a good mystery to be solved and not just who's the killer? How do we get away? Oh no, he's putting a dagger in my stomach and ripping it up to my navel. Um, it's when there's actually something to try and solve and pay attention to. That's when I really can enjoy a movie more. I think there's
That's
one.
cool. Yeah.
There's an old movie called The Uninvited, not the more recent ones. It's an old black and white movie about a woman who dies in this old house, and they have to they're like trying to figure out, what all this haunting is. It's fascinating.
Yeah. No, I mean that's again. I bring you up to the game Deathmark. Is basically like I said. Your main thing is to put like ghosts to rest, but in order to do that, you have to figure out what had happened to these ghosts, what led to the hauntings and everything like that. And then I think I'm doing the same. I'm watching. Was it a haunting on House Hill
Hill House.
or
Oh yeah,
Hill
yeah.
House? Yeah, I'm watching Hill House with a bunch of friends. We're like 3 episodes in, but I'm already like curious, like, what the hell's going on here? Like, why is this house like? Obviously, we know
Yeah.
the house is haunted, but why is it haunted?
I'm
and
the
everything like
minority.
that?
I'm not a big
So
fan of the
good.
series, but that's just me.
You might like Bly Manor a bit more. I thought Hill House
That's-
was much better, but Bly Manor was good.
Is
Bly
it
Manor
by
was
the
actually
same
more of a
person?
love. Yes,
Well,
it is they're treating the series as an anthology,
Yeah.
and this is the next one. This one is
Okay.
much more a love story than it is a
Yeah.
ghost story. But
Okay.
it was good. It was very different.
They're very different because
Yeah.
one thing, Haunting in Hill House is based on a book where Bly Manor is.
They both are. Hill House was, of course,
Oh, yeah.
based on Haunted House, and then the Haunted Bly Manor is based on the Turn of the Screw.
Oh, okay, but not by the same writer, is it? Are they?
No, different writers.
That's what I thought. I think
Alright.
I think another game though. There's a lot of other games that have kind of come over the years. Like there's one, like I think it's called like SCP, the one where you couldn't blink. It was like very indie.
That takes place. That states from the SCP wiki,
Yeah.
which was started by something awful, and it's.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
mean, SCP is night and day different. I do prefer old SCP to
Yeah.
what it's become now.
A lot of
but-
it-
yeah, I don't
a lot
even
of
know
it is
where it
that-
became. I just knew that one game and played it and was terrified. And then we also have
Yeah.
the Slender Man games as well, like that are very prominent, honestly, like memes and just in the gaming world. Like Slender, the 7 pages is such a big game that brought people
a big one.
to
That was
Yeah,
a big
that-
one because
but-
they
but
turned
it-
it into a movie.
yeah, but like that.
Yeah, that
well,
was a creepy boss to go.
Yeah.
Went out
Which
there
was
and did
hot
his thing.
garbage, by the way.
Yeah,
But
but
yes,
like
the movie was
Oh,
terrible.
I know the movie's crap
But
garbage. I had to go.
I will say
guess.
I will say that Amnesia, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Slender Man are honestly the 3 biggest things that happen with horror games to get awareness, and I think I would say that they are the 3 major players as to why Resident Evil went the route it did. I will honestly say that.
I think so. I can see it. I think
with-
Outlast may have had a little bit of say in it too, but
That's
those
true.
were, I would say
Yeah.
those are definitely the
And-
big 3.
And I think PT obviously was but that's also from a major studio. I'm not going to count that. Like the existence of PT, of course, was going to hit hard because it was from Konami. Like, I don't think it was. I don't think it was influential. I think it was more of just like, hey, look what Konami just made and fucked up. Everybody's going to emulate this now. Like I'm not going to give it the credit that we all know it already has. But like there's another game called like Layers of Fear that's out there that I've watched some gameplay of and it looks awesome. Well, my question to you guys, and I don't know if Sean wants to end it after this, but what is a horror game that you want to play more than anything? And mine is going to be Devotion, which is what we were talking about earlier, that Taiwanese game that got banned because it mocks the president or prime minister or whatever they have there, whoever their leader is. There is a small asset in the game that you can see in one small part of it where it's very anti the political leader, and they had to take down the game completely, and it is no longer available. You cannot buy it. You cannot have anything. and it is such a shame because all the let's plays and everything I've watched of it is a gorgeous, horrifying game that I want to experience, and I
That's the
won't be
game
able
where
to
you
now.
played the girl walking around the school, right?
No, you're going through.
Oh, I'm thinking of a different game that's like
No,
communism and everything.
yeah,
Okay,
Devotion
maybe.
was a Korean game that got taken down and is no longer available because of, unfortunately, making it insults a political figure. So,
It's my
hey,
phone. I
awesome.
get.
But anyways, what about you
I
guys
like it.
though? What is a horror game that you guys would love to play?
I'm trying to think which one.
No, I mean,
I can't.
Amnesia Rebirth comes out in
Yeah,
less than a week, so I mean
There you go.
that's kind of it for me. I would love, maybe not something that it's already out, but like a remaster of the original Dead Space. I'd love to play, maybe port it for the Switch or something as well.
yeah.
Because I
I'm
love
about
Dead Space.
I don't know if you would count it as horror or like an action horror. I would like to play The Sinking City. I love the Lovecraft world and everything, and I got bummed when they took it off digital.
It is
that was-
relisted, I believe.
They relisted it. They got it fixed.
Yeah, I believe it was. I think it was a mistake that it was bold. They had said it should be relisted, and then the physical version is still available as well.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I've
I do
been
want to
meaning to
play.
actually play
I
that
do
as
want to
well.
play that because I do love Lovecraft and I love that kind of world. And I mean, his things are like it delves into the unknown, and that's why I like the
Yeah.
horror that like into unknown. You can't do anything about it. You just have to accept your fate and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah.
If you like those games, you might want to check out Vampire as well.
Oh,
Vampire, I think I have
that
that.
looks so
I have
much
that
fun.
game. You mean this one?
Yes, great game.
I have it. Yeah, I got partway through it. I need to get back to it.
that's awesome. Sean, what about you?
I mean, I'm excited for Little Nightmares 2.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that was actually part of
Oh,
why I ended
crap,
up
I
buying
forgot
this.
that
I'm like, that's coming out soon, isn't it?
I've never played the DLC, and that's something I don't know how integral it is to playing the sequel.
You played the mobile game?
No, I didn't know there was a mobile game.
Yeah, I think there's a mobile game. It's by the same exact thing. That's like, I think it serves as the prequel to Little Nightmares.
Yeah, I know the DLC for the game is supposed to take place like before and during.
Yeah, I think the mobile is even before that. I can't remember what the name of it's called.
Oh, mobile games. Oh, I won't play them. I have zero games on my phone. But anyways, yeah, that's it.
Oh, same
I
here.
played a couple decent mobile games. Wayward Souls is pretty fun.
I don't put them on my phone because when I'm on my phone, I'm working. Like,
Yeah,
and I also don't have I don't have
I-
unlimited data too, so that also puts a damper on it.
I
Yeah.
wish I had the balls to play Resident Evil 7 just because watching people play it, I'm like, you know what? If I had an ounce of courage to my name, this is something I'd probably enjoy.
Yeah,
That's it.
But-
I would play that, but I
that's
need
it.
to have people. I need
We
to have people with me.
We need to get VR, and we need to get you to play it. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
I'm not playing VR.
I'm
Fuck
just-
that.
if you're gonna go all the way, you might as well get the blood candle they did for it.
Oh Jesus.
The blood scented candle.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, I can't do games like that.
no,
I need to have like another
Little Nightmares
person.
2, that's something to play too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I remember the trailer looked really good. They did confirm that that's not actually going to be a co-op though. You have the two characters, but it's not cooperative.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's kind of fine. The idea of co-op horror to me has always been like,
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like,
horror is best when you're
I mean,
alone.
I don't. I mean, I agree, but I think at least if it's available and it doesn't affect the game, you know, some people maybe just need that other person there. And so, like, I understand if somebody is scared or if it is like somebody kind of new to horror, and it's a good way for them to play with their buddies to make it easier
Yeah.
for them. Like, I think accessibility and also getting people into the horror genre is more important sometimes, especially like
That's
right now when we don't have so many horror games coming out.
it can be done
Yeah.
well. I think if you look at something like Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 5, that's a great example of it being done very poorly because
Yeah.
at that point it's not it wasn't really a horror game anymore.
Yeah.
It was riding that
I have played
coattail
Left
of
4 Dead.
Resident Evil 4.
Left 4 Dead is something very
Left
different.
4 Dead's just scary because you got 1,000 enemies attacking you at once.
But y'all, what about Black Ops Zombies? I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
That game's terrifying because you end up playing with a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's
That's
also
true.
it's terrifying
That
because he played
12-year-old better
DG
than
Yeah,
Pop,
and then you realize the 12-year-old's better than you.
Yeah.
and he
I would
fucked
keep
your
playing with my
mom.
brother.
Yeah. In my case, he keeps telling me he fucked my dad.
Oh God.
Anyone else got anything else that they want to like throw on the pile? Like, is there a game that you really wanted to highlight? Is there something you really wanted to say about horror games? Like, if there's something like what really you love about it, what makes it best for you? Like, anything else?
I mean, I think next
I could
year.
go on.
Yeah, I think next year of GGG, I think one thing we need to do is definitely do our extra live stream again of horror games. I think that
Yeah.
like I know with GGG we've been doing a whole month of horror on all the podcasts. So if you're not listening to all of our podcasts, like we have a bunch of horror stuff that's coming out, Halloween themed
Yeah.
stuff. But I really want to do it bigger with GK. And also our Let's Plays. I think like this year we're just doing BioShock, and then I have a special guest, and I'm going to play through Silent Hill 1 soon, but that's going to go through November. But I want more horror games and GK to do some stuff, and I think next year we'll do a
remember
stream.
the scariest thing about our horror game 24-hour stream that we did a few years ago was my sleep schedule.
Yeah.
Because I came over to your house, we did Outlast until
I think like 2.
God, what was it? 2? No, it was later than that. No, it was like till 2, and then I had to stay up because someone was streaming until 4,
Yeah.
and then I streamed Sister Location from like 4 until 7, and then I had work at 8.
Jesus. Yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
I don't know if we want to
Oh.
do 24 hours again, but I think we could definitely do like the 8-hour stream.
Yeah, like maybe
Like,
10 hours.
Yeah, maybe we can get all of us together and we can play a game.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the game we should keep in mind for them too is, have you heard of this game that's out right now called Phasmophobia?
Oh, I
Yes,
thought you were going to say
I have.
Among Us.
Okay,
I do want to play that one.
Mike, I saw you shake your head. I think you would dig this. You are a ghost investigative team. You are not there to excise the
Oh,
ghost. You are
snap.
just there to identify it. So you roll up in your truck, you go into a house, and you investigate various phenomena. And then you have a notebook where you list 3. You have to identify 3 clues, and depending on the ghost, they'll give you 3 kinds of clues, and then that will allow you to identify what kind of a ghost it is. Then you get the fuck out of the house.
Uh-oh, the ghosts
Yeah.
are fucking
Back
with
to
them
your
because he's
truck.
telling their secrets.
Everyone loads up their clues. Hopefully you did all the side objectives. Hopefully you did all the side objectives, and then if you guess correctly, you get more money. And then money allows you to buy better equipment. So like sometimes you'll go into a house and it's like, did anyone bring a thermometer? No. Okay, well, we have to hope that if anyone sees their breath, then we'll know that this ghost has dropped the temperature to freezing. Because if you have a temperature or an actual thermometer, then you can say, oh, that's one of our clues. EMF level 5, that's a thing.
Dude, this is amazing. This is like
Ghost.
Ghost
I
Adventures,
like-
the game.
This sounds right up my alley.
What
They
is
scare
this?
you. They will kill you.
It also has the Knights effect, where it's like one of those games where if all the characters are like right next to each other in game, you're perfectly fine. But then as each character spreads out, you don't hear them no more. It gets like
Unless someone has a
someone has a
radio.
walkie. Yeah, unless
It's
someone
like-
has a
That's
radio.
really cool.
What
Yeah,
game is
walkie,
this
and then
again?
you can use a radio to
And
speak to the ghost.
Phantasma?
And Phasmophobia. And then-
Phasmophobia,
Oh
sorry.
my god.
The ghosts will respond to you speaking into the game. So if you're like, what is your name? If it's nearby, it might say its name. If you're like, how old are you? It might say child or adult. Some ghosts get angry as you speak to it more and more. Some ghosts will only attack if there's
my
one
God, this is so
person in the
cheap, too.
house.
Yeah.
This sounds awesome. Yeah, this sounds right up my alley.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good
And it's a-
multiplayer like
Yep.
horror game.
Is it
if you've
multiplayer?
seen- Yeah, because I know Markiplier streams it with his buddies.
Markiplier streams it. Achievement Hunters just streamed it today.
Here's a good way to do.
I know
horror
Yogscast
multiplayer.
does a couple streams of it. I think they did a few streams, or at
Oh my
least one of
god.
them.
Okay, I want to play this.
Yeah, I do want to make. I am going to be doing a my top 10 horror games list. I should have out
Hell yeah.
hopefully next week.
Cool.
Okay, cool. I'll look for it.
Awesome. Alrighty, anything else, John? I'm good.
No, I think that's it. I think that was a really good discussion, everybody. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, yeah. Alrighty. Sean, where can they find more gamer culture stuff?
Alrighty, so you can find GamerKulture at GamerKulture.com. You can find a huge backlog of videos, reviews, articles, and podcasts. You can also find GamerKulture on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That is GamerKulture, one word, culture with a K. We do occasionally make various gaming themed posts, so make sure to check us out, follow us, and of course, check out all of our backlog of content here on the Grand Geek Gathering. Kibbles, where can they find you, buddy? What do you do?
You can find me on Instagram at Kibbles Plays. I changed my tag, so now it's Kibbles Plays. I'll be posting a lot of my collection there, and I am actually getting back into streaming now. I got a few more test runs, but I'm hoping to get back in stream. So you can follow me over at Kibbles Plays.
Nice.
Very cool. So Kibbles Plays, keep an eye out for it. Mikey, what do you do and where can they find you?
All right. I do writing for the Grand Geek Gathering, so you can find any of my content on there. I do top 10 lists, I do reviews, I do just random thoughts on things. Like I said, I do have a top 10 horror games list I'm working on, as well as a top horror remakes for movies that I'm planning to do as well for this month. So check out those when they go up.
Nice.
You did say that you're a big fan of Halloween Horror, or not Halloween Horror Nights.
Halloween Haunt.
Halloween Haunt, excuse me, wrong part. Halloween Haunt.
God.
He has a massive log of several articles ranking every single maze they've done for years.
Yeah,
So
for almost 20 years worth of mazes.
Awesome.
yes, it's a
It would have
huge
been
list.
20 in the top
I
for this year.
think
We should
Who
share,
was it
we should share it again on social media.
shared it, like one of the designers of the mazes.
Yeah, it was I believe it was Daniel Miller had shared it. I think Daniel Miller and maybe John Cook shared it as well, or at least commented on it.
Yeah, that was
and they're big designers within the haunt community that they
Yeah.
actually did mazes for Knots.
That's amazing.
so definitely check that out. And Tyler, over to you. Take us out, buddy.
All right, thanks for listening in. You can check out all of our shows and offerings on thegrandgeekgathering.com, or you can follow us on all the social medias on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the things. All of our podcasts are available on all podcast apps. You can also watch this show on YouTube, us live and pretty. And have a wonderful week. And GGG, wear a mask, especially on
And
Halloween.
stay cool.
Bye.
And oh, that's right. And
And